I'm just here to cause trouble.
Excellent.
Hey, you know what? Cause all the trouble you want.
Bruce, Dave here. We're making better progress gaining entrance and access with the FAA and um, the parts of the Drone Advisory Committee that provides input to the UAS integration office. So we are pretty jazzed about that. And to some of the comments that we've seen on Discord, we want to get a little more organized so that we provide some headlights on when and what we'll be doing. Interestingly, we've gotten feedback that a podcast would be, or many podcasts would be, a way to be more accessible to the FPV community. We like that idea. Dan has created a series of links of all of the meetings that we've been doing over the months. So we have we have a population of podcasts up on our website now, and we'll start to create those. And then we're thinking through and talking through what's an interesting format. Is it a live session that we stream and then record it and put it up as a podcast? Is it a quick, brief audio only that could be useful, an update on news and what's happening? So we're working through that and very open to suggestions.
Yeah, what are the numbers like now in terms of membership?
Low.
In full out, yeah, they are. In full out membership, we're probably about 30, 35. That with paid membership, but in terms of people following on Facebook, we just breached 900, which was nice. We've been kind of hovering around 890, 880 for a while now, so we just breached 900 today. So that was awesome. We've had some of our.
We've got good access to all of the Rotor Riot pilots. They're supportive, and so they're open to help spread the word about FPVFC as well. And the Drew Camden in particular is very supportive, and one of the newer pilots, Alex Vanover, is also a full-scale pilot. So he is very regulation sensitive in that, as you may know, if you have a violation on a drone, you can lose your full-scale license or certificate. So he's always very careful and very meticulous with how he adheres to regulations.
Yeah, they crashed into Drew's truck, with that DJI.
He saw that, yes. Yes, he did. Yeah, buff it out.
So what's happening? Thinking from numbers, 900's a pretty small number in the bigger picture of things. What's the AMA got? What sort of plans are there for promotion? Because obviously, you can have the best mousetrap in the world, unless people know about it, they're not going to buy it. I'm wondering, do you have anything in mind? One thing I was thinking of is maybe just some video bumpers that people can add to the end of their YouTube videos, that just like a 5-second bumper just to plug FPV Freedom Coalition. They just bang it on the end of their video, and then every video they post is introducing people to the coalition.
Yeah, it's a good thought. We can do that. That's we had asked some of the influencers to add a couple of words, but that takes energy and effort, and that have to create some sort of a segue. So I like the notion of a video bumper. That's certainly something we can do.
Is Chad still involved in things? Because that's the sort of ideas that probably best come from him. He's a marketing man. He's the guy with the ability to build brands, and so I should think of building this brand is going to be a pretty critical part of its success.
It is. He is. It is. And we need to. I need to circle back with him, and he's been busy with a number of projects, but I can bring this higher up on his priority list.
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect project for when he suggested that their editing team can help out with something. That would be a great little project for them to work on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can write the script. It can be like like Bruce said, it can be a 15-second spot. Okay.
Yeah, I created one little tiny YouTube thing trying to get people to come watch or to come join these Discord meetings, but only used it once or twice. Not too many people saw it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, other than leveraging the pilot influencers, the various promotions we do want to use Google Ads, that we have access to that, and nothing more than that in terms of Marcom type promotions.
We need to provide people with more value to come along in terms of, adding an element of, I know there's some sort of education going on to a degree, but like guests who will chat on a subject or something to make like these sessions interesting to people other than those that are just interested in the rights of FPV flyers. We want to get as many FPV flyers as possible, so we can bait them in with, tonight we're talking to this famous personality or that famous personality, then maybe that would make it easier to get the numbers up.
You're right. Yep. We should have advertised that Bruce XJet was going to be on our Discord channel tonight.
Yeah, you'd have got nobody then.
That's funny. Let's see. That's a good idea as well. We kind of were tossing that about probably about half an hour ago when we were talking about podcasts and getting people on to like interview and stuff like that about current going on within the regulation space and maybe emerging technology and stuff like that. That's a good idea though.
Maybe a little bit on what's happening outside of the USA as well, because obviously it's a global community and EU regulations and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm sure all the regulators look at the other countries to try and pick the best ideas or whatever, or see how something's going. And if something is working well in another country, you probably guarantee that some form of it will be introduced in your country. So being fully aware of what's going on around the world is probably an important aspect.
Agreed.
Since we have some contacts with the FAA and the AMA, it'd be interesting to do a question and answer with each of them at some point to get the community a direct line to ask questions to those two groups.
To which groups, Dan?
Someone from the FAA and someone from the AMA.
That's quite important because you get more than just the rules, then you get the policies and the attitudes, and you get a bit of feel for what they are thinking and how they're going to implement their enforcement actions and so forth, which is very important to the community.
It is very important, and there's FAA has a social media. They call him the drone guy. They just did a Q&A the other day on drone regulations. He might be somebody we want to reach out to for something like that. Let me see if I can find his name. I've got a link to the Q&A live stream that they did. I'll drop it in the Discord real quick.
Yeah, those webinars they've done recently have been really nice, but they don't really get into answering too many questions before their time runs up.
Kevin Morris.
Okay.
He's the FAA drone guy. That's what they're calling him.
Now, if we happen to have someone from DJI on tonight, that would have probably gotten a big audience. What are your intentions with FPV? Things like that.
People rules of out.
Can their new system, I assume they are going to consider rolling in some sort of remote ID into their new FPV system when that is available.
Probably already in there. They just haven't told you.
Right,
exactly.
It could be.
Well, that's the thing is they did publish a white paper saying that going forward, most of their at least commercial grade drones were going to have ADS-B. So
ADS-B in, and they advocate all governments to adopt remote ID. So absolutely agree. I mean, it'll be there if it's not already there. Just not turned on. Yeah.
I don't know if any of you all saw, but we do have a new actual FAA director confirmed this week. So.
Oh, and not an acting administrator?
Nope. We Mr. Elwell is out. We have a Stephen Dickinson. Did a little bit of research on him. He's a U.S. Air Force vet. He was the senior vice president of operations at Delta Airlines. And there's a little bit of stink around him right now. He was the first FAA nomination to receive a strict party line vote. So, and there's some other, I guess he's involved in some kind of whistleblowing issues. So,
Nice. Good to be controversial.
Oh, I guess so. So it'll be interesting to see what direction he takes on some of this stuff. I know, the FAA is a big company, but
yeah. Take that aim has just said the FAA is looking for ADS-B out. I've not seen that.
I don't think they will be. I think the problem is that they don't want to or need to know about the hundreds of thousands of drones that are flying every day in the USA. From a traffic management perspective, it's noise. They're not interested in the noise. They're interested in the signal. And all these drones flying around at treetop heights are not a concern to GA. And besides, if you look at the rules, it's the responsibility of the drone operator to give way and stay clear of the manned aviation. So the manned aviation, so that we can get it out of their way, not vice versa.
Right.
Agreed. So Dean is speaking up. He must not have an audio connection today. He's typing.
The other thing too is that issuing ADS-B doesn't have enough capacity to put every drone an identifier. So you're going to have not enough numbers. It's an old technology.
Right,
it's decades old.
It would be a huge issue. Would shut down ADS-B. Yep.
I would love to see what the numbers are for Lance with the recreational pilots for the past week. That'd be really interesting to hear how many flights are out there every day.
Perceived threat.
Okay. Well, there's not the number of flights. There's just the number that are flying legally.
Correct.
Right.
And
I'd like to know both numbers. Actually, that'd be the telling one.
I did a flight the other day testing 2 apps, and so according to the FAA, I was flying 2 things at once because I submitted a flight for the same time through 2 different apps. So their numbers are not going to be
Did you get approval
perfect.
pretty quick on it?
Yeah, they were instant. I got the text message back like 10 seconds or less after I hit the submit button.
Nice. Very nice.
And I can test it from sitting in my living room since I'm just close enough to an airport.
Because you go to your bedroom and you're out of you're in uncontrolled airspace.
Right.
Hey, has anyone here come across the situation that Lance for Recreational was launched on 23 July? Got it.
Right.
Yet there are a number of controlled tower, ATC controlled airports that are not yet working with Lance. And so we got all excited. We thought this was going to be a complete rollout, and it appears that there are still a number of airports that are missing. I've not seen
Do we know
any...
which airports? Because that was all supposed to be completely rolled out well into mid last year.
I'm pretty sure if you load that ArcGIS website, the green boxes are the airports that have Lance, and the red boxes are the airports that don't. And you can really see over on the East Coast that there's a lot of red.
Yep.
I'm not sure where I heard that from, but that's what I believe.
That makes sense on the facility map. And then what the open question is, so how do we determine, how do we know when this is going to change, or is there a schedule? Or I have a hunch the answer is going to be just watch the facility map, and when it turns green, it's Lance is supported.
Well, there's let's see. Let me get on FAA's website here, because there was a part of the UAS integration was a list of Lance approved facilities and what was not. Let me see if we can find that. Let's see. US Data Exchange, UAS Data Exchange. So.
Okay, for some reason I can no longer type. It's locking me out of be able to type. How nice.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Take that aim. It was the individual Angela Stubblefield. And then do you have a link to the presentation that you could either post that here or email that to me? I would be grateful. Angela is the lead, I believe, on security within the UAS integration office.
Okay, so let's see. There is a list of all the airports recently added as of May 2019 on there. There was 109 airports added.
Okay.
It's in a PDF. I'll link that.
Okay.
Let's see. That's the newest airports. And then here is the current list of all facilities.
Great.
And it's over 600 facilities, they're saying, covered by 400 traffic control towers, facilities.
Okay. One of the things we are tracking down, Bruce, is OpenSky. And so this is a Google Wing unmanned traffic management piece of software. And it's my understanding that it's now being used in Australia. So along the lines of trying to find out what's going on around the world, that's absolutely what we're trying to do there. We've located a woman who works in the Google Wing organization, and we hope to hear a little more about the application.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much oriented to Australia because CASA produced an API that instead of them writing an app, they said, we're going to produce an API. Anyone can write an app to access this data and so you can work out where to fly and when to fly and so forth. So I think Google has just produced an app that uses that API, but I dare say they do have plans to extend that functionality out into other countries. But as far as I'm aware at the moment, it's pretty much based around the CASA API.
Okay. So it's much like what we're seeing done with Lance in the United States. There are 3 application providers that are embedding Lance functionality in their own app.
Yeah, pretty much. I think one of the problems that we've got already, though, is that we have different suppliers of data. You've got AirMaps, you've got Altitude Angel, and they're producing different sets of data. And sometimes they conflict and sometimes they are incomplete. And so who do you believe? You've got to look on, because there are so many apps, you've got to check them all to make sure you haven't missed something, which is actually kind of worrying. And until there's some consolidation, it makes it very difficult to be sure that what you're doing is 100% legit.
Agreed.
And I think the biggest thing is until they incorporate, at least for US, is they incorporate the FAA facility maps as opposed to these independent maps like, Kitty Hawk has created and whatnot, because a lot of those maps are outdated now, and there's less restriction, so all the heliports need to go. Like I just opened up Before You Fly, they just re-released this with Kitty Hawk's API, and I still see every frickin' helipad within a 50-mile radius of me.
Yes, same here. Yep, I did the same thing. I saw the announcement, said, "Oh, cool! Launch the app." And I was like, "Oh, bummer."
And the funny thing is before it listed me as living outside of the radius of Sky Harbor Airport, and oh no, I'm sorry, I am dead smack in the middle of an SRP helipad that all of a sudden, before you fly, is put a 5-mile radius around,
Right.
which
Right,
is
but
absolutely
But it's
useless.
right, but it's uncontrolled. So
Exactly.
yeah. So you're okay. So
There's only one thing. Well, there's only one thing worse than no information, and that's bad information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason why I've never used Before You Fly. And then in other situations, like up in Sedona, I was out in the desert, and Before You Fly gave me an okay to fly, and AirMap gave me a not okay to fly. So it's just like, it's who do you believe?
Yes.
Hey, Scarecrow.
Hello.
How you doing, bud?
Good. Very good. I just realized what time it was.
All good. We're kind of hashing out some of the new apps and kind of some ideas for marketing for us, and kind of just general issues. So nothing major formatty tonight, but we were talking about Lance just now and the supposedly updated Before You Fly app. So
Does it work with AirMap?
the Lance should
Yes.
work with AirMap.
AirMap was one of the ones I tested.
Kitty Hawk, and there's a third one that's less known, IUAS or something like that.
UAS services? yeah, I'd have to look it up again. I tried that one, and it lets you do 3 for free, and then you have to pay a monthly fee. So then I just deleted it from my phone after that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I
Oh,
downloaded that one too, and then I was like, "Oh, no fees. Nope, we need to do this for free. Otherwise, it's not gonna get accepted."
I was very pleasantly surprised and happy to read. I posted about the Lance system being open for recreational flights on Reddit, and one of the founders of Kitty Hawk replied there saying that, "Yep, there's no fees for recreational. They're all about trying to give back to the recreational pilot community, and they're not planning on charging anything for recreational flights." So that was nice to get a reply from them on that.
Agreed,
Absolutely.
very positive. Yeah, I got the name of it as UAS or UA Sidekick. Was that the one
Yes.
that?
Yep, that's it.
That's
Yep.
the third one that's recreational Lance supported.
And the thing that blows my mind is that they have no intention, as far as I'm seeing, and as far as webinars are concerned, they have no intention of putting UAS facility maps or Lance capability into the Before You Fly app, which is concerning that the FAA is unwilling to put their own functionality into that. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought they were mostly partnering with someone like Kitty Hawk to replace Before You Fly, or update it. I don't remember. Wasn't there some?
It's supposed to be
about that?
updated, and yeah, and they're saying it's been updated by Kitty Hawk, but maybe they just haven't pushed it out yet. Or maybe it works on Android, because I have an iPhone. So let's see, redesign Before You Fly app. Here we go. Maybe I just need to. I'm gonna try re-downloading it and see if it changes.
So, Take That Aim says updated by Kitty Hawk with a link to Lance from Kitty Hawk. Not quite sure what that means to have a link to Lance. So can you actually make a Lance
looking in the
request
planner
Before
here.
You Fly, or do you have to jump into Kitty Hawk to do it? Maybe.
Status. Map. Planner. Current GPS location. Start.
Well, while Josh is doing that, does anybody else have other great ideas how to get more participation in these Discord meetings? Or if they were in a different format, or how do we get the word out that we need more pilots to join us in these meetings to give us their feedback?
Hey, can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah.
Hey,
just
there's
with
Dean.
something? Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't. I can't have voice here for real long. I got some stuff going on here, but So
Okay.
this is off of the first page of the new Before You Fly app, and it says, how can I get a Lance authorization? Lance is available through Kitty Hawk, a mobile app for managing your flights. Download the app, register an account, and select controlled airspace where you'd like to fly. Kitty Hawk will show you advisories based on your location. In addition, the option to apply for a Lance authorization. So it looks to me like this was very hastily put together, the Before You Fly update, and it's real like jumpy. I noticed that it was like, well, okay, if I can't look at this and go right to Lance, why would I use that app versus just using one of the direct providers? And the integration with the maps, I agree. They did take the local airports out of mine, but I scrolled around to some other areas. I know there's issues, and they didn't get them all. It's not a real clean upgrade.
Okay, so just FYI, delete your Before You Fly app. It's not updating. You have to re-download it.
Yeah, you have to re-download it. That was in the release.
Okay.
It said to delete your existing.
That's not
All right,
really
so-
a great way to release a new app. It's more like creating a different app.
Well, yeah, it wasn't. It's not an upgrade. It's a re-release. Or okay, call it something different. Then I don't know. This didn't make a lot of sense.
Okay, so basically what it does is on the side, or if you drop down the 3-bar menu, it says Get Lance, and
Right.
then you click that, and then it says as a thing, how do I get it? You click Get Lance, and then it opens up your Kitty Hawk app.
Yeah,
So
and then you
it's
have to.
like,
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
It's like an accessory they stuck on the side of it, and it really, to me, it looked like they really just kind of stuck it on the side of there too. I mean, it's not what I would
Okay.
call a smooth integration.
So now I will say that the map in the new Before You Fly is more. It looks more like the UAS facility maps. I will say that. But now I'm in range of something else. PIR. What? Unless there's a race going on. Do we have a?
Yeah,
PIR?
you should have a for a NASCAR race probably, or something going on if you're around PIR, if you're within the range.
That you knew what PIR was is awesome.
Yeah, I've driven there. Yeah.
I live like 3 blocks from it.
Then you're definitely within the range.
Yep. It just
Unless
says,
blocks are really different there than they are here.
well, by blocks, kind of miles, but still, I'm still within the range.
Yeah, within 5. Or I don't know how big. I don't know how big they draw it. I know what they draw around Milwaukee when they're playing here, and Road America when they're playing there.
All right. So yeah, it is a little more reminiscent of that. They did add the stadiums and whatnot, which is nice to see. Although a 5-mile radius around a stadium is probably unnecessary.
Well, you could weaponize those drones, and
Well, yeah,
somebody could.
Hellfire missiles, man.
Yeah. I was working on a mount just the other day.
Okay.
He's kidding.
That's hilarious.
He's
I know
kidding.
he's kidding.
I'm gonna strap 5 DJI Phantoms together to lift it up.
It's a good thing our videos are not monetized, or this would be demonetized.
Okay, so
I thought we couldn't take money anyway, so.
let's see. So the interesting one I want to see is Sedona. So Sedona Airport still has 0 restrictions around it. Okay. So either it is an complete uncontrolled airport, or they have not submitted information. Well, hey, cool. Let's see.
So the other update I had on, things I was working on, trying to find out some further information about how the test is going to roll out, the recreational pilot test. So
Absolutely.
I have now been switched around to my request for information regarding how the test is going to be developed, what's going to be contained in the request for the RFI, and so they've switched me from sort of the small UAS working group to the people who do the airman tests, so the airman exam board, and then back to someone who is like the airman certification advisory person. And now I just wrote back. Here it is. I just found the email. So I started out with. Anyway, I'll cut the long story down. I'm back with a guy. The last guy they sent me to was named Andrew Cargill, who is with the Airman Certification Branch Technical Section, and he sent me to the Knowledge Testing Branch, who he said was going to be developing the test. And that was over a month ago. So I sent him another request saying, I haven't heard anything in a month. Who's handling this? Basically. I mean, I did it much more polite. Well, somewhat more polite than that. And I still haven't gotten anything. So essentially, they're not. I don't think anybody's got a clue there. I get, who's going to write it and how it's going to come out. And so if that was supposed to be out by the end of summer, we're kind of closing in on that.
Well, I do know on the FAA Q&A yesterday, they did talk about the knowledge exam, and they did say that it is in progress, but they're not giving out any more information besides that from what they said on that. So I did put a link to that up above, that live Q&A that they did. It's about 45 minutes long. There were some good questions. There were some repeat questions. There was some basic questions, but it's worth a watch and kind of skim through it.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get to that one yesterday to see what they put out there, but it seems interesting to me that somebody's working on it, yet seemingly nobody within the FAA can point me even in the right direction of who can give me information about it. And I'm not asking for the question pool. I'm just asking, how is it going to be put together? And if we had a group of people that were interested in contributing to the process, how would that come about? How could that be facilitated?
Right.
So you're offering them free help. You would think they would at least be able to point you in the direction of a person who would say, that's okay, we don't want your help.
Right.
Or yes, we'd love your help, and this is how you can.
Dean, have you tried just sending a note or start calling Jay Merkel?
Actually, he's the guy that I started with.
Okay.
And he sent me to, or his office, not him specifically. He has not replied to my emails about that, and also some specific questions that I've presented that they still haven't answered yet.
Right.
So I was sent directly to him for answers, and he just simply doesn't reply to the emails.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, my thought is that circle back to Merkel and say, thanks for the directing. No one's answered. Or repeat. We've tried this, repeatedly. Been working this a month. No answer. Would really like your support to encourage someone to respond to me. I'm happy
Well,
to help on that if you want.
if you can get him to reply to you, that'd be great. I can't, like I said, I can't get a reply. And
Yeah,
he was in when this has gone in a big circle now. So everyone who I've been sent to was just copied on the reminder that I sent out. I waited until this Monday because I thought, well, I don't know how everybody gets busy or how much staffing gets taken up during the EAA. So I didn't want to do it during that time,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing. I know there's, there may or may not be a lot of people up there. I don't know, but I thought I would wait until that was done. And so again, he would have been included.
Could you forward me your email, and then I'll use that as then I'll help.
Yeah.
All right.
So I can send you that, and I mean, I can touch base with you on the other matter in terms of at least what to me looks like they're heading toward, or at least Angela, and I forget her last name.
Stubblefield.
Yeah. That, to me, she keeps using the word remote identification. So if you're saying you want remote identification on a drone, that's telling me that you want to be able to remotely identify it. And they've sought out the standards for serialization of drones, which would tell me they want to somehow attach that serial number to the identifying signal. At least that looks like the road that they're going down to me.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with the comments that if every recreational drone that takes off starts putting out a signal, I don't know how many million people they're gonna get to weed through that, or if they can. I don't know how technologically advanced that system is, whether they can shut everything off to below a certain altitude, or even what the capability is to pick up that signal at our altitude, which is below 400 feet.
Right. Yes. Yeah, there was some discussion on that at the Drone Advisory Committee that the feeling was that the technology would be overwhelmed, and this was at the beginning of this call we were describing that same thing. It's just so we know that, for example, DJI is integrating ADS-B in all of their drones above 250 grams, but they have no intention of incorporating ADS-B out for those reasons, just to saturate the bandwidth.
Yeah, I can't imagine how confusing that's going to make that incoming panel in any kind of a general aviation or a commercial aircraft. I mean, I can't. I mean, all of those dots on there, and how do you sort out who's who? And I don't know. I don't know what technology they have, like I said, versus the ability to shut part of that off in only areas where they're looking to identify an aircraft, where they're having a problem. It just sounds to me by her language that she seems to have she keeps using the word remote identification. And if they're requesting serialization standards, how do those two things link? So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This sort of thing isn't going to happen overnight. Look how long it takes for anything to happen in the aviation industry. Getting standards set up will take decades, and so I don't think it's a starter, and it has to be a standard because there are so many different manufacturers and so many different things you need stuff for scratch built gear and so forth, and there's just no way that this is going to work. It's a dream, it's what they want, but it's certainly not what they're going to get.
I think it's reasonably, it's coming along, and I've been working the ASTM, the International, let's see if I get it right, Association for Trades and Measures, founded in 1898. A standards body has the F38 is the subject that includes tracking and monitoring of drones, and they're quite a ways along. And there's a pretty good document on it, and it ties back to the Aviation Rulemaking Committee. So that the two documents appear to dovetail, and so I think there's a fair amount of standards work going on, and rulemaking in the background, and preparation of rulemaking. So I agree completely. And the Jay Merkel's view in June was that he would anticipate remote ID happening within 2 years from now, 2019. And in the interim, the FAA's desire is to institute an interim capability that users would utilize on a volunteer basis.
One of the things is that we don't even have any spectrum set aside for this. If you run it on ISM bands, you can't guarantee the service, because one of the conditions of ISM use is that you don't have a guaranteed service. And if you got a remote ID system, you can't guarantee. What's the point of it?
I think they're going to propose something along the lines of using an existing technology like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or something like that. And
that's an ISM service. It's not going to be reliable if it's an ISM band service. I mean, we already have situations where there are some places you can't fly because your failsafe, there's just too much noise on 2.4 gigahertz. If someone's flying a drone there, how's their remote ID going to work?
And that is getting worse. I mean, those bands in general, 2.4, the high 900s, excuse me, are getting so saturated. Somebody would have to come up with a new protocol, a new way of allowing more signals in that small space.
Well, with 2.4, you can get a lot of RC planes in the air on 2.4 with control signals, and an RID would be even less traffic than that.
The other problem, though, is that if you've got a control link, which is 2.4 gigs, you don't want a transponder shouting in the ear of your receiver on 2.4 gigs. If you've got 5.8 gig video, you don't want a transponder on 5.8 shouting in your video signal. So this stuff has to be compatible. And I believe that we're having to register and do all sorts of stuff. We get nothing back in return as a community. They're taking a freedom and selling it back to us as a privilege. It's time, I think, that we said, well, if you're going to lay down these rules and regulations, you're going to make us do all this stuff. What are we going to get? Give us some spectrum. Give us some spectrum dedicated for C2 links for remotely piloted aircraft, so that we don't have to worry about fighting for space with baby monitors and all sorts of other stuff. So we can legally fly with reasonable power levels. It's time to say the ledger needs to be balanced. Come on, we're paying money. Give us something in return.
Like what Dave said, where they're hoping people will voluntarily do this. And right now, I don't see many FPV pilots voluntarily doing any of the remote ID stuff. Right? There's no incentive there.
Well, I mean, if the incentive comes down to, one, it's cheap or it's cost effective, or heck, even it's free, fantastic. Or if remote identification, like we were discussing earlier, Dave, grants you, full beyond visual line of sight, long range FPV kind of stuff, then
if you don't need a spotter, that would be, I would give up having a spotter for a cheap RFI or a remote ID.
It's never going to be cheap. If there's a standard that needs to be developed with it, you look at any electronic device that gets put on an aircraft that is approved, and that's why they had such an issue with the experimental group and requiring ADS-B in experimental aircraft, they are not subject to the same experimental aircraft electronics are not subject to the same standards as other general aviation aircraft. So you can buy, as an example, glass cockpit. You can buy that for $15,000 to put in an experimental aircraft. If you want to buy that same technology from the same manufacturer that is certified and tested to be put into use in a certified general aviation aircraft, that's a $50,000 piece of equipment. And those are exact numbers that I obtained from a technician who installs that type of equipment, installs avionics. So if they're starting to talk about wanting to do this on drones with a standard, believe me, it's not going to be a $40 piece of equipment.
Well, I think their goal is to make it so that at least police officers, maybe even general public, can walk out in their front yard. If there's a drone nearby, their phone already has the hardware capable to detect something about who's flying that and where they are. So it can't be too expensive, or it can't be something that's not already in the hardware you have today.
Unless I was really not paying attention when learning electronics and getting my radio licenses, there is absolutely no way that there is anything built into a cell phone that's going to pass any kind of standard, that you're just going to be able to walk out and hold your iPhone.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're probably talking about using existing standards like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and NFC and things that are built into your phone already, or at least
you're talking about a different kind of standard. That's a different kind of standard. That's why you've got to turn your iPhone off when you get on an airliner.
Yeah, there are two things that they're talking about which they're keeping separate. One is electronic conspicuity, which is like ADS-B, and the other one is remote ID, which is a completely separate thing. It just enables enforcement officers or whoever to identify who that drone belongs to. It doesn't, whereas ADS-B integrates to an existing system, provides a lot of extra detail. So yeah, they've kept the two separate, and there's two levels of certification. Well, one would have a level of certification, and the other would probably be uncertified and just a standard published that every man and his dog and everyone in Banggood could make copies of and sell freely at a very low cost.
Right, and I was talking about the remote ID, not the ADS-B type thing.
Yeah.
Well, it depends who they want to be able to look at it, though. I mean, if they want a law enforcement officer to be able to locate it or something, that's a different thing than what I'm hearing coming out of this woman at the FAA, where they're wanting to use this remote identification technology to identify bad guys coming across the border or using a weaponized drone, and I think those aren't they're not the same thing. You're talking about a different kind of ability to identify, and we can remove the whole crazy thing that anybody who's going to have a nefarious intent with a drone is not going to install something that they're being asked to put.
Correct. They're not going to voluntarily identify themselves at all.
Right, but that hasn't stopped the gun control folks from wanting more too. That's been an issue with that same topic for a long time, and that doesn't stop them from every time someone commits a crime with a firearm from wanting another law.
This is a problem we have. If we have this electronic system, then it can actually end up like it did at Gatwick, where innocent people get persecuted because, for example, bank robbers don't drive their own cars to the robbery. They steal one. And
Right.
If you don't know your drone's been stolen and suddenly you have a whole lot of cops turning up on your doorstep saying you were flying your drone in this place and it was against the regs, how do you defend against that and say, oh, it's just been stolen? They go, yeah, right.
Yeah, and it's a lot
right,
easier
the same thing
to spoof a remote ID than it is to spoof
Yeah.
a stolen car.
And that's exactly it. Do we really want to have them say, well, great, we can make this a cheap Banggood $29.95 thing you can voluntarily comply with, and then you can also have the group of people without any intent for or morals or scruples say, hey, I can copy this whole batch of them that was on this container coming over from China and sell those to people with bad intentions. So there's a real slippery slope here that we want to be careful of.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to remember one thing, and I always have to repeat this. If we can reduce the death toll caused by the recreational use of multi-rotor drones by just one a year, oh, hang on.
Yes.
Why are we trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist?
doesn't
except in the
exist.
minds
We would
of
be
the media
creating people in that case.
and
Amen.
fools. Yeah,
Amen.
it's like we need to educate these people that they are tilting at windmills. Where's the risk assessment? I want to see the scientific risk assessment. You don't go solving problems that don't exist because these resources you're using are finite and they cost money. And you've an obligation to the taxpayer to make sure that money's properly spent. Why are there still manned aircraft falling out of the skies and killing people almost every day? Why aren't you addressing the real risks in aviation instead of these things? And as far as remote ID goes, all you need is an airline pilot. They can spot and identify a drone from thousands of feet away in the blink of an eye.
That's right. Even during bad weather, in the middle of a forest fire, they can spot and identify a drone 500 feet below them flying at speed. That's actually documented in the United States paperwork. I believe me, I have a copy of it if you'd like it.
Absolutely, they're a valuable resource.
Yes, I mean, we have had a grand total of 15 documented incidents in the United States since they've been keeping track. 15. Now, no deaths, no injuries.
So one of the organizations that I think would really like to share the information that you have, Dean, is DJI. In one of their more recent white papers, they put forward a pretty long argument on much of the points that you've made, which is, hang on, these are very safe, have been very safe aircraft. We DJI have been working to make them safer. And then they cite that there is no good and agreed to statistics on confirmed incidents, and so they go to some length at pointing out the misinformation that we're getting, as well as the bad information about incidents. And so I think that would be a good use of of that information. And
Absolutely.
I might have a good contact in DJI who would be keenly interested in looking at that.
The recreational multi-rotor drone
Will
flying
do.
is the safest aspect of aviation there is. There's no safer element to the aviation sector than drone flying. So why is it being so heavily regulated when we've got Boeing Max 8s falling out of the sky killing hundreds of people, and we say, I'll just send it back to manufacturer, they'll fix it?
I think you have a two-pronged issue here, and just from knowing what Task Group 1 from the DAC is working on, you've got the issue of states and local municipalities trying to regulate drone use, and you've got the misinformation of people thinking that all drones are spy drones, and people are working that into their local government. The local government's pushing against the FAA for tougher and tighter regulations, and for the ability to write their own regulations, which right now is restricted due to preemption of federal versus state. So you've got that approach, and then I think you've got the commercial side of the industry wanting to claim sky space for all their random intentions, whether it be delivery or organ transportation, or you need that pizza really quick. I mean, not to mention by the time you get it, the prop wash made your pizza so freaking cold to begin with. But at any rate,
Yeah, but
you've
they'll
got
remake
those.
your pizza for you no matter
I
what
know,
happens
but
now. So
I mean, you've got those two competing things, and I think the biggest among them is the general public. You know, the fear of it, and this happens every time a new technology comes out. It was, when cell phones and smartphones rolled out, it was radiation in the brain, and then it's drones, and who knows what next. I mean, we're going to start chipping people, and everybody's going to lose their mind. But
Yeah, this is crazy though, because we've got Teslas on the road with auto drive, and they've killed
Exactly.
people, but there's nowhere near the hysteria over that. You could be on the freeway and you've got a Tesla
Absolutely.
beaming up behind you, yet some toy drone somewhere in a park drives people to hysteria because the media has just made a field day out of it.
Yeah, and I think that's the two major parts of these issues is that public misinformation, public knowledge in general. They just don't have the knowledge to make informed decisions because the media won't let them have the knowledge, and we're so spoon fed by what we see on TV and what we hear on the radio that we're incapable of making our own educated decisions for the most part anymore.
And that's why
So-
anytime I see a positive,
government has been trying to sell us the idea in this country that we're not capable of making our own decisions. That's been going on for a long time, and they feed the media, and so the media feeds the population. Oh, look at all this dangerous situation.
and that's why I've been trying to, anytime I see a positive news story, try to spread that as far as possible so that those news organizations see, oh, hey, if we have a positive drone story, we actually get a lot of traction with that. We get to sell ads.
The thing that I think that from the FPV community side that we need to see more of, and I think Dan and almost everybody here would agree on, is that what are we doing to bring that good attention? When we have an event, we got West Coast Throwdown happening, next week or 2 weeks? Did we invite media out to come look at that, see what we're doing, see how much fun we're having, see how much people are learning, and what anything? Are we doing that? And because if we're not, we're doing ourselves a great disservice. And I think that's the biggest thing is we need to get with our local people and show them, our local media, and show them that it's not all about spying. It's about innovation and having fun and getting out of the house and getting away from the cell phones and the video games and whatever else is dragging our kids' heads these days. It's about all that.
Yeah, part of the problem is though that it's not really accessible to the public. You roll up at an FPV event, and all you see is a bunch of little dots whizzing around the sky, men looking at porn on video glasses. It's like, there is no way to really engage with the public like that. I think it's a very difficult challenge, and I think what has to be done is come up with some way to make it engaging with the public. And it's I'm lost there because look at DRL. I mean, they're not exactly getting massive coverage of their events, and it's not like Formula One.
I mean, they're coming to Phoenix in 2 weeks or in a week, and there's like little to no advertising happen. I see a couple of commercials on TV, but I don't think anybody knows. They're literally coming to Chase Ballpark next week.
I am constantly surprised when I mention drones and stuff at work, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I've seen those on ESPN." I actually haven't even watched it on ESPN since I don't get it, but a lot of people do apparently watch it there.
Yeah, this is this is a topic I mentioned before. FAA is purporting a mid-November drone week where they want to try to do a lot of what we've been talking about, which is look for and put forward the very positive stories about drones. And Saturday and Sunday of that week, whatever it comes out to be, will be the recreational component. What of course is a bit of a irony in my mind is that when the FAA identifies the data that Dean was talking about of all these incidents, 7,458 over a 5-year period. It feels to me like fear mongering, and so now we need to change the image, and that's going to take some work because certainly we're in a situation where drone equals bad, so And now we're trying to alter that.
Have you seen what Simon Dale's doing in the UK? He set up basically I forget what it's called, but he takes all the prox reports, all the drone incident reports, and then evaluates them and says this is rubbish and debunks them. And so it gives a counterpoise to all the claims being made in the media and by the Airline Pilots Association and so forth. And it gives some balance and perspective to the whole issue. And he's done some really good work. It's almost a full-time job for him because there are so many of these reports. For example, in the UK, a drone report, a lodged drone report, an incident report could be somebody stole my drone.
Yes. Yeah,
Well,
I have, and I have been in touch with him and watching his work, and it is exhausting, and I'm delighted he's doing it.
In the United States, they count anyone picking up the phone or filling out a form or sending an email to the FAA that says, hey, I think I saw a drone that was doing something wrong, too close to an airport, thought I saw one out the window of a passenger jet on my way to Phoenix after my fourth martini, whatever it is, they count that and it goes in there, and no one looks at that report and says, yeah, okay, this guy had 4 martinis, we're gonna not count this report, or this guy claimed to see a drone at 1,000 feet through the clouds and debunks them and says that one's not going to go on the list. That's not what happens. That's how that number got so crazy. Is no one is even doing, the most basic rudimentary separation of truth versus myth, and that's that's part of the problem here. And then the media, of course, picks up on all of these incidents and all of these numbers and runs with them because they sell newspapers and commercials. Nobody wants to come. I'm sorry.
Has anyone read Chris Mano's blog called Much Ado About Nothing? He's the airline pilot, ex-vet flyer, became an airline pilot, I think it was American Airlines or US Airlines or something. And he wrote a very good blog entry saying he wasn't the least bit scared of his airliner hitting a drone. And it's a really good read.
It is a good read.
So that needs to be highlighted. I like to send it to the media when they do these stories about, drone, airline pilot sees drone, and I send them that. And I also point out to them that the drones that you see are not out there to try and knock down your airliner. Airliners see other airliners all the time at airports, and there's no big deal. So why, when they see a tiny drone, is that a big deal?
Well, there are actually more confirmed bird strikes that have caused damage than there are, than anywhere near the number of confirmed actual drones. We haven't had with the exception of one, with a military helicopter, is the only confirmed drone versus aircraft incident in the United States.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I always say, first of all, they said if a drone hits a helicopter, then people will die. And then the drone hit that helicopter in New York Harbor, nobody died. Then they said if a drone hits a helicopter's tail rotor, people will die. Then there was the one in Baja where a Hughes 500 got collided with a drone and it hit the tail rotor and nobody died. And they're saying if a drone hits an airliner, people will die. Well, in Canada, there was a reported instance where a drone hit an airliner, and unlike the Dayton University study, all it did was put a little scuff on the wing. So we need to keep constantly coming back and saying, look at the facts, look at the evidence, look at the reality, not the concocted lab tests and things which are made, like that BBC documentary, they're designed to make drones look bad. Let's look at the realities, the history we've had. We've had 10 years of recreational drone use around the world, and look at the number of severe, major incidents. Look at the number of injuries, look at the number of deaths. It is one of the safest pastimes in the world. Just a few weeks ago, a girl got killed by a golf ball hit by her father. And you don't regulate, you don't register golf clubs and golf balls and things. And so why we got this massive overreaction? It is fear mongering designed to basically There's commercial interests making money out of this. They want that 400-foot airspace because they see a future in it. And we've got certain interest groups protecting their own backs, like airline pilots, because they know that increasingly airliners are no longer flown. The pilot's just there to basically, polish the dashboard while they're flying. It's all done by computers. So they're all looking out for themselves. There's no one actually looking at the safety element. The safety is at the bottom of the list with all this regulation making, despite what's being claimed.
Well, if safety was the issue, then they would be addressing the unsafe areas, and that's not what they're doing. They're. I mean, I agree with what you just said 1,000%. If safety were the concern, then they wouldn't. It wouldn't have taken them, a week and a half to figure out how to fire a drone at a stationary aircraft wing to make it penetrate it. The reality is that that was a stage. That was sort of the drone versus aircraft equivalent of filming the moon landing at a soundstage. It was about as close to the truth.
Okay, Josh, where are we on schedule?
Say again, sir?
I'd say, where are we on schedule? Any other topics you wanted to cover this evening?
No, I think we pretty much hit it all. So we kind of talked about Lance, which I had on here. We talked about spreading the message. We talked about regulations, and we talked about the new FAA director.
And a video bumper. I like that idea.
Yep, I do like that idea. So we got bumper for end of videos. We got famous personality guest speakers, USA and otherwise, so international as well. Q&A with the FAA and the AMA, and I got the FAA drone guy's name to see if we could possibly reach out to him. And then I kind of wanted to do a little more research on that OpenSky. And Bruce, you said that was CASA's using that? Or they wrote an API?
CASA made the API, and they've invited anyone who wants to write an app that interfaces to it, provide that information to drone operators.
Interesting. So I want to kind of dig into that too. So I think we hit quite a bit. It's good discussion, guys. So I think on that note, unless anybody has anything, I think we'll wrap it up for this evening. And I do want to thank you all for joining. Your opinions and insights are fantastic as always. So we'll see. We might be changing the format of these, but we'll kind of play that by ear until we make a final decision. So any comments or suggestions from anybody?
No, thank you all for your service.
No problem. Well, thank you. And thank you as always, Bruce, for joining us. We appreciate it.
No worries. Might go and rip some packs now.
Awesome. All right. So y'all have a good night.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.